Welcome to Contenders, an LPL viewing guide, where we take you on the journey through the LPL Spring Playoffs of 2019. It's a split that has brought champions and contenders together and birthed one of the most competitive splits in LPL history. For WE, 2018 looked unnerving. Getting knocked out in the first round of playoffs in spring, then not even making the playoffs in summer. This team needed change. With Condi going over to LGD, WE took a chance on two up-and-comers in Beishang jungle and Post in the top lane. We thought losing Son of Baron would leave a gaping hole in comparison to our newbies, but how wrong we were. World Elite somehow brought together a powerful roster that would go on to take down the likes of EDG and TOP. And it felt like it was on the back of one hyper-carrying machine. Take a look at Daddy Mystic. This man not only has an incredibly wide champion pool, but his ability to think ahead in fights is what we are seeing out of the 2017 World Semi-Finalist. Mystic is having the split of his life, coming back from fatherhood in 2018 to now show the rest of the world who the daddy really is. The veteran in Mystic alongside Xie has incredible late game potential. You then couple that with Beishang's tendency to heavily focus on the bottom side of the map in the first 10 minutes. WE set themselves up to give Mystic pressure early so that the ADC pummels later on. It is through the hyper carry potential that we often see WE positioning late game compositions with huge engage threats in the top lane and jungle. It is through this ability to create a fluid composition that WE can rely on their old star players while creating new ones in Beishang and Post in the process. Team WE's fights are to be feared across the league. If you make it to 40 minutes, you better hope your father is there to protect you from theirs.
SinoDragon Gaming is the only team in the LPL comprised solely of rookies. Last split, their squad blazed their way through a flawless LDL run. Coming into the LPL for the first time, expectations were tempered, but they've proven that their incredible synergy and masterful team fighting is more than enough to hang with the top teams of the LPL. At first glance, the Dragons seemed to just be able to take down the lower tier teams, but their series against TOP proved otherwise. From there, they roared to life and were even able to conquer RNG to secure their path to playoffs. We found it near impossible to pick only one player as our star because SinoDragons are such a well-oiled machine that makes maximum use of all its parts. Top laner Changhong bulldozed through opponents on Sion, while Twyla and Xiaopeng hold the early game from mid and jungle to allow the bottom lane to scale. Gala then takes over the late game, dishing out tons of damage, and support Mark makes sure that no one can touch him. Whatever you do, don't give SinoDragons their bread and butter composition. Front-to-back team fighting is their path to victory. They have never lost a game when both Kaisa and Sion were selected, so they'll pick them every chance they get.
Edward Gaming have never missed playoffs in the history of their time in the LPL, which is exactly what we feared at the start of the spring split. They looked uncoordinated and lacked any control in the early game. EDG needed an answer. They needed something. It was then that the miracle and savior in Clearlove was returned to us to revitalize our hope in Edward Gaming. Father Clearlove was such an impactful return to the roster of EDG, putting the team on a win streak and cementing playoff potential. Although there was so much attention paid to Clearlove with his grand return and stellar performances on champions like Evelyn and Karthus, we had another player actually spinning heads that had been pumping teams from week number 1. Ray was displaying one of the best splits of his career, as his playstyle had suddenly shifted from tanks to carries, and his teamfight dominance was shining through. In line with the shy for solo kills, Ray has constantly been the X factor in EDG's games, with incredible highlights and brutal flanks on Aatrox and Vladimir. Brutally bloody laning phases combined with these insane teamfight mechanics are your new expectations of this now 2-year EDG star. Edward Gaming constantly play off the strength of Ray, which is a massive comparison from 2018 when Scout was the pure focus of this lineup. Even though the mid-jungle proximity is still higher than the top lane in 2019, more pressure has been given over to Ray. Remember, you want to see stable lanes out of EDG and wait for their slow-paced fights in drawn-out lanes that both top and mid can find footing in. Another big change this season was when Hart came over from RNG to join this roster for Spring. And yes, there were some major concerns. But so far, he has had such a huge impact on the growth of EDG, especially on players like Ray. And although the playstyle stays the same, the coaching change has strengthened Edward Gaming's early game and put them back on track. The fact that they made this journey from Week 5 and took back their dominance is testament as to how, once again, EDG have never missed a playoff opportunity. Only one question remains: how far will they go this time?
JD Gaming came into the split off the back of a fiery 2018 summer where they brawled their way to an impressive third-place playoffs finish by taking down Rogue Warriors. It was their most successful split since they joined the LPL in 2017, but the offseason took a toll on the e-commerce giant. They lost jungler Clid and AD carry Loken to SKT and TOP respectively. JD were unshaken, finding some landmark trades of their own, grabbing 2 players for each position they'd lost. For the jungle, they rescued hotshot Vietnamese jungler Levi from his stint in NA and secured Flawless from the now vanquished Rogue Warriors. In the bottom lane, they snagged promising rookie Bavoy from Young Miracles and found an even more imposing second AD carry, former world champion Imp. JDG started the split with a bang, taking down world champion squad Invictus Gaming in only their 3rd series of the split, and kept their momentum going long enough to dominate e-commerce rival Suning. They've hit a few bumps along the way, but have been able to roll through most of the competition off the back of their solo laners Zoom and Yagao, collectively known as the Dumpling Brothers. Mid laner Yagao has one of the most feared Zoes in the world, sniping opponents left and right with sickening frequency. His ability to pressure lane and make aggressive moves with jungler Flawless is key for JD Gaming's playstyle because it draws pressure away from their main carry, top laner Zoom. Zoom shares a lot with his signature pick, Swain. Cunning and a master at controlling the battlefield, he forces the enemy's hand wherever he goes. If left alone, towers drop like flies, and if he ever deigns to leave his side lane domain, it's only to massacre the enemy with some of the best teamfighting mechanics in the LPL. Once he gets rolling, it's in one direction and one direction only. Toward your nexus. You'd better come prepared.